is recognized.
Thank you. I'd like to put on record that I submitted my amendments on time. Upon the request of the chairman, I submitted it while I was gone. But because of the other important measures that were taken up next week, I'm actually here even though the amendments are already with him. But for ease of, since His Honor is already prepared to read the amendments, most of which are mine, I will just sit down and have our sponsor read the amendments, and then from time to time, Your Honor, Mr. President, I may just interject to emphasize the reasons for the amendments. That's all, Mr. President.
Okay,
Thank you.
we take note. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thank our good colleague, Senator Pia Cayetano, for submitting her amendments on time. Last week, we took up RCEP as our priority measure, so we didn't have time to amend this measure. But nevertheless, I thank Senator Cayetano for enriching the bill and giving us a lot of good suggestions to further improve the measure. So, Mr. President, going into my amendment, actually I only have one. On page 2, line 16, after the word social, remove the comma and insert end. And Mr. President, the reason for this amendment is to emphasize social and emotional as one concept, as opposed to social, comma, emotional, which connotes very genetic and compartmentalized ideas of terms. Very generic and compartmentalized ideas of terms. I so move, Mr. President.
There be no objection to the motion and the amendment is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. And going into the amendments of Senator Cayetano, with her permission, I'll just go through it.
Yes, please. Thank you.
On page 1, transpose section 3, declaration of policy and objectives, as the new section 2. Renumber the succeeding sections accordingly. I so move, Mr. President.
There be no objection to the motion is approved.
On section 8, capacity building of tutors. On page 4, line 5, insert the word program, comma. The phrase, the DepEd shall ensure that the, and delete the word shall. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion and amendment is approved.
On the same page and line number, after the word training, insert comma, and the phrase as needed, comma. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the amendment is approved.
On page 4, line 7, delete comma, and the words as may be deemed necessary. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the amendment is approved.
So the section will read as follows. Section 8, capacity building of tutors to successfully improve learning outcomes as envisioned by the ARAL program. The DepEd shall ensure that the tutors receive adequate training as needed, focusing on effective pedagogies, interpersonal skills, social emotional learning, and cultural competency, among others. On section 11,
Mr. President, may I just, with the permission of the sponsor, may I just interject the reason for this? The reason for this is we wanted to ensure that we identify the agency doing training. It's DepEd, but you know how it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes if we don't say it, there may be questions. Moreover, training as needed, this representation felt was very important because every teacher may have different backgrounds and different talents. Actually, it's a talent to be able to focus on individual students who are slow learners. So as needed po yun para the programs that will be given to these future tutors would be also based on their need to become effective tutors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thank Senator Cayetano for the amendment, and I completely agree with her logic on the amendments that were proposed. So moving on, Mr. President, on section 11, free access to all of DepEd's learning management system, applications, subsidized data plans for learners and tutors. On page 4, delete lines 30 to 31 and replace with the DepEd shall determine the learners and tutors in financial need and ensure that they are provided subsidized data plans for the use of these applications. So move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the amendment, amendment's approved.
Mr. President, again, with the permission of the sponsor, let me explain this. The wording this representation proposed, again, is meant to provide flexibility.
Yeah.
Because there would really be cities who on their own will decide, or maybe at this point have already, knowing the city of Valenzuela, just like the city of Taguig, they're very proactive. They may already have programs in place. Some of them may not require at all data plans. Some may require but are already provided. So just flexibility so that DepEd has the authority,
Yeah.
in fact, has the obligation to provide when necessary, Your Honors.
Yes, Mr. President, I totally agree, Mr. President. And this will give DepEd a lot of flexibility to also prioritize those who are in greater need of gadgets or subsidies so they can continue their tutoring program, Mr. President. That's it, Mr. President.
Mr. President, can I just have a minute suspension? Because I remember reviewing so much more. So my staff is telling me that they've already worked it out with your staff. But obviously, if it's not reported on the floor, then those changes I noted would not be carried. So can you just give me less than a minute to confer with my
Sure,
staff?
session
Yes,
suspended.